Welcome to 60 Minutes of Unscripted .NET Entertainment. As graduates of .NET Medical School, we prescribe healthy choices in .NET, like be sure to get 6 servings of leafy green .NET per day and avoid large quantities of Java. I'm your host, Cam Soper, with co-hosts Scott Addy and Myra Wenzel. And we'd like to welcome today's guest, Bogdan. Bogdan, can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. Hey, everyone. My name is Bogdan. I'm a .NET developer from Romania. And I'm also Microsoft MVP on developer technologies. And for the past year and a half, I started playing with smart home stuff, especially Home Assistant. And it became a hobby since then. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to talk about today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So as it turns out, I'm kind of a home automation enthusiast myself, and that's what we're going to talk about in today's checkup. So for today's checkup, here, let's move this along a little bit. So for today's checkup, we actually have a video on Channel 9 that you should see a couple of familiar faces there. That's me and our other co-host on the .NET Doc show, Cecil Phillip, on his show on .NET, talking about what I've done with home automation and .NET Core. Well, at the time, .NET Core, but .NET 5 now. And I don't want to steal anything away from our guests, so I'm not going to focus on this too much. I'm just going to give a brief introduction. My system just wraps a third-party system, and I talk a little bit about it here. We'll go, in fact, I've got a slide that demonstrates what that looks like.
Cam, question on this. So what's an example of something you've done with home automation in .NET, just so folks know sort of what to expect in this video?
Well, let's use this as an example. So my home automation system is not Home Assistant, which Bogdan's going to be talking about today. It's a different brand called Habitat. And Habitat has a little WebSocket that runs in the background. It's not a documented feature, but they use it for their administration pages to display like dashboards and stuff. So what my system does is it watches that WebSocket for events, like, for example, opening the front door, right? And when it sees that you've opened the front door, it goes and looks through an assembly, this puppet.automation assembly that I have, and looks for any class that has an attribute that says, hey, I want to be involved with front door stuff, right? And what that does is it kicks off a task. Now that task it sits there and runs on its own. And what it can do during its lifetime is it can interact with the web API on Habitat and do things like turning on lights. So say you open the front door, you turn on the light in the foyer, right? Or if we want to do other things like, other IoT systems or things in Azure, like I send all of my events up to Azure Application Insights, that's an option as well. If another event comes along that it would kick off that same class and that task is already running, the task gets thrown away and replaced with a new task. And that's pretty much my system in a nutshell. So if you'd be interested in checking that out, we have the link at probably at the bottom of the screen right now that goes to this video. Me and Cecil talk about this for, I don't know, probably 15 or 20 minutes. And it points you to my GitHub. And that is all we're going to talk about Puppet. Now, I'd like to get into the hallway track. And Bogdan's going to tell us all about Home Assistant. All right, Bogdan. What do you think of my setup?
Yeah, I looked at your videos before, so I know what to set up. Mine is not that .NET as in your setup. Mine is mostly relying on the things that Home Assistant can do natively. Okay. And I have a few reasons for that. Also, before I start, I should say that I don't have any slides. I'm just going to have a lot of demos, hope that everything will work. And if there are questions or you want to interrupt me, just go ahead, and I'm hoping it will be more like a discussion.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, let me just share my screen a bit. I'm going to talk a bit about, I think you can see it now, about Home Assistant. So I don't know much about Habitat. Home Assistant, they don't have their own devices. It's a smart home automation platform that tries to bring everything locally. Okay, they try to, they don't want to rely on the cloud for controlling your devices. Of course, you can expose your home to the outside world if you want to do that. That's perfectly okay. But you'll see this often from people who make the home smart. They try to stay away from the cloud as much as possible. Okay, because it sucks when Azure or AWS is down and a bunch of services that rely on them are also down. So I don't know, you can't turn on your air conditioner or something like that. So that's one of the main reasons that you'll want to stay local. However, there are a few reasons to use the cloud as well, and this is what I'm going to show today. I'm going to show you how I'm using Azure and what cool stuff you can do with it. But let me first make you a small tour of my home. So first, when I started to get into this, and I had the same idea. I wanted to take all my devices, learn their API, and control them with .NET. That was the initial idea. However, as you may know already, every device, every manufacturer has their own API or protocol, and it's difficult if you want to. If you want to buy only Philips lights, for example, that's going to be easy. But if you want to buy from other manufacturers, and then you also need sensors, so then you're going to end up with a bunch of apps on your phone and a few APIs to learn, and not all of them are open to the public. They don't allow you to control them remotely through an API. So that's why I started to use Home Assistant. Okay, the cool thing about it is that you can easily add all kinds of smart devices to it. For example, I started with Alexa and Hue lights in the beginning. I think most people start like this. They just buy, okay, let's see how it works to have a smart light and with an Alexa, Google device, and something like that.
Yeah, that's definitely a slippery slope, right? It always starts with one or two bulbs, and then the next thing you know, the entire house is wired.
Exactly.
Bogdan, question for you. Our viewers may be wondering this. If not, I'm wondering. When we say .NET, what flavor of .NET are you using here? Is it .NET Core, .NET Framework?
So I'm using .NET 5.
Okay.
But this is the native UI from Home Assistant.
Very cool.
And the reason I'm using Home Assistant is because I suck at UI. And usually when I try to make something for myself, I usually develop something really fast. I see that it works. And then I spend a lot of time tinkering the UI, moving buttons, changing colors and stuff like that. And in the end, I just abandoned that project. So with Home Assistant, this is what I have. This is what I can do. And there are a lot of customization options. So if I want to go into the UI, for example, these charts, this is a custom component for Home Assistant. This is not how a native chart looks like. But
so
there
Bogdan,
I
don't mean to cut you off here. So just to get
sure.
clarification here, we have one of our viewers is asking, are these graphs coming from? You said this is the native dashboard in Home Assistant. So these graphs are provided by Home Assistant.
Exactly. So.
Okay.
These are connected to my MySQL database. So Home Assistant uses a recorder. That's the definition, and it can be an SQLite DB, MySQL, MariaDB, SQL Server as well, whatever you want. In my case, it's MariaDB. You can just install it as an add-on in Home Assistant. So this is very easy. You can just go to the store and find whatever you want. Okay, so MariaDB, I could just click on install and that's it. Okay, but I also use InfluxDB because if you're going to store everything in SQL database, then it's going to get bigger and bigger over time, and also slower. So it's going to take a lot of time to load your UI, for example. But if I want to see things that happened, I don't know, 1 year ago or something like that, I use two things. First of all, I use Grafana for the charts, and Grafana connects to InfluxDB. So, for example, this is the last 12 hours, okay? And I can see here my productivity in the last 12 hours and how much I've been standing up, because I have a standing desk and I'm trying to motivate myself to stand up as much as possible by looking at this chart.
So you even have whether you're standing up or sitting down automated.
Exactly.
Wow.
And you know how
So-
I did this? Actually, yeah.
So I was going to ask. So do you have a pressure sensor in your seat then, or is that how that works?
No. Let me share my phone just a bit.
For someone like me, I hope that's not the honor system we're working on, because if my desk is in the up position, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm standing and working.
Yeah, Scott. So where are your bar stools?
Out of view, but yeah, that's where I would be sitting.
So this is my chair. It's a regular chair. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm going to zoom in.
Mm-hmm.
I think I should go lower a bit. Just a moment. Yeah,
Okay.
that's a contact sensor. Okay, so it's something like this.
Yeah. So it has a magnetic reed switch in it.
Exactly. So each time I'm sitting down, it will send that to Home Assistant and inform it that I'm sitting down.
Right.
And I also have one in here. This is next to my office. It should be like that. Sorry. Yeah. So if my desk is in the up position, then I know that that I'm standing up. If I'm sitting down, that sensor will communicate to Home Assistant that I'm sitting down.
Oh, Bogdan, I don't think I could ever write code to keep myself honest like that. I don't think that would work out well.
Yeah, well, this was my issue because I have this desk over a year, and each time I was sitting down like 20% of the time. I mean, when I installed the sensors, I started measuring it. And in the first week, I noticed that I was spending 30% of the time sitting down. And then let me show you so this is my office dashboard that you can see in here. Okay. And this chart over here, these bars show how much I've been standing up in the past 7 days. This one is Saturday, the one with lower than. So I'm trying to motivate myself to stand up more than 50% of the time. And it's not only the chart that makes me do this. I also have some Alexa will scream at me if I don't do that. So
you have everything integrated. Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm trying to integrate as much as possible.
And I suppose you could take this to the next level and sort of emit a low voltage shock if you're sitting down.
Yeah.
Oh, don't give me ideas, Scott.
Don't try
that. Bruce is asking here if this is open source and if there is a link to home automation and all of this that you're showing.
Yeah, so Home Assistant is open source. Everything that I do here, I have in a GitHub repo that it's published on my profile. I don't know how I should give you the links after, put them in the description or something like that, or let me just put my. Yeah.
When you get a chance, if you see we didn't get a chance to show you before the show, but there is a private chat tab in the StreamYard window.
Yeah, I know that.
Yep. So yeah, if you just want to send us links over here, we'll put them up in a banner for you.
Okay. Yeah, I'll find them in a few seconds. Let me see.
But while Bogdan
Okay.
is getting that link for us, so the idea, Scott, of a shock remedy. I'm thinking about ways I could apply that to teenagers. Because I've used the use case before of my pantry door, right? Where I have like the announcement speaker that says please close the pantry door. So now I need to start thinking about ways that I could just issue corrective shall we say corrective adjustments
Well, so
automatically.
I'm looking to this solution as a way to protect my Cool Ranch Doritos from the kids. I want to make sure when I go to the pantry, there's ample supply of Cool Ranch Doritos. So
Gotcha. Yeah, that's important. All right, Bogdan.
Yeah.
So go ahead. I got your link. I'll throw it up in a banner.
No, you're talking about kids. One automation that I have for my kid is one that I use often. It's about my TV. So this is me, the green screen behind. So it's hard to tell him to stop watching TV when it's past bedtime. I mean, he will just go on, give me 1 more minute. So I just have a timer here, and I say, okay, 5 more minutes, and then Alexa will count down each minute. It's 5 minutes to go, 4 minutes, and then shut down, and it will turn off the power to the TV. So there's no way to turn it back on.
You have to be careful though. Sometimes they'll stage revolts. I've had my oldest one will go into my network rack and start taking things apart when he's frustrated. He'll try to figure out which device is the one in charge.
Yeah, I noticed mine is only 5 years old and he's already trying to find the workarounds for this.
So question for you, Bogdan. So we have our friend Christos in the chat talking about auth. So is there any kind of security in place to govern who can access this dashboard and who cannot? Or is it just wide open?
Of course. No, so I can restrict access. It's not that great around customizing the access, but for example, here I have the people that have access to Home Assistant. It's just me and my wife. And if I go to dashboards, I can say that for this, there was someone else. So I can restrict this to be admin only, for example. And if I'm the administrator, only I can see this, And there's also one more thing that you can do. I have another Home Assistant instance in my garage, okay? And my garage is shared with 10 other neighbors in the same apartment building.
Mm-hmm.
And I did something. Let me see if I can show you here. So I wanted to automate the garage door, to be able to control it from Home Assistant. And if I started to open that box and to connect ESP32s to it and stuff like that, then my neighbors will complain if I break it, So what I did was to use a switch bot. I don't know if you heard about this device.
SwitchBot? No, I don't know that I know of it.
So I think this image will show pretty clear what it can do. So this device just presses a button.
Yeah.
You can control it through Bluetooth.
Yeah, I've got a kid. One of my kids has something like that on one of their switches. It has just a little motor that actuates the switch.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what I did was to put a Raspberry Pi Zero in the garage. Okay, and then my neighbors wanted access as well because they thought it was pretty cool to open it from the phone. And there was a custom library for Home Assistant that allowed me to hide the header, for example, the side menu, so I could effectively block their access to a single page.
So you've essentially became like the service provider for your neighbors for opening and closing the garage door.
Yeah. and in that way, I was the one.
I'm sorry. No, I was just going to ask before, did you have to go out of the car to open the garage? How did it work before?
No, I had a remote, that would always stay in the car. But if I wanted to open the garage door and my wife was off with the car, then yeah, I couldn't do that. I had to manually press the switch inside the garage. I had to be inside. So, but mostly I just wanted to control it from my phone. That's just an excuse I used to.
Cool.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add it in Home Assistant, and that's what I've been trying to do all this time, to add a bunch of stuff. So for example, if you look at my Office dashboard, I have a bunch of services that are, for example, Pluralsight. Everybody knows Pluralsight. Okay, they don't have an API for individuals, from what I know, only for businesses. And I just grabbed that request with my authentication cookie, and I can watch my Pluralsight goal in my Office dashboard. I can see how this is 1% of the 4 hours that I want to watch each week in Pluralsight, for example.
So okay. So that's how much you watch in Pluralsight. That's not like your Pluralsight course is being viewed.
No. But I guess you could do that if you're an author. I'm not, but you
Right.
could do that. Of course.
Yeah, neither am I. I just assumed you were.
Yeah, and other services like this is yeah.
So what's the box there at the bottom? What are you tracking? Are you tracking your carbon footprint? Like, is that like?
No, this is actually this the CO2 level for my office.
Oh, okay. You've got one of those sensors. Yeah. Okay.
And it's a small office, so it gets pretty bad. Health levels are around 1,000 or something like that.
I mean, it's starting to creep up there, Bogdan. You might want to open a window.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have one in the office.
And what else did you do around your house with all this automation? I'm curious to see like other ideas that we might steal for our own houses.
That I absolutely will steal for my house, Myra.
Sure.
I need to start. I have no automation, so I need to like start with maybe lamps or something simple like that.
Yeah, that's a good way to go. The thing about automation is that everybody thinks that having a light, a switch on your phone, that means that your house is smart. Okay, and sure, I don't know, maybe that's the definition, but what you want to achieve is through automation. You want your house to do stuff without you telling it to. Okay, so the most basic example would be going into a room and having the light switch on and switch off when you leave that room, for example. That's the most basic thing that you can do with some sensors and the light, But there are other,
No, I was just agreeing with you. Sorry.
I thought you had a question. Sorry. Yeah, but there are other things, more complicated and much cooler that you can do. So I'm going to try to show you a few. But before I go into that, I just want to tell you that there are a few ways to create automations in Home Assistant. The first one is by adding an automation from a blueprint. So this is stuff that other people created, and you can reuse that automation. For example, this motion activated light, I could reuse that, or I could create my own automation. And this is, you don't have to be a developer, you want to, let me just keep this, okay, so you can just pick whatever device you want, and you have triggers and conditions. So you don't have to be a developer in order to write your automations, but you can also define them in YAML if you want. So if I open my okay, these are all my automations in here. You can also do them like that.
Hey, Bogdan, could you make your font just a little bit bigger for us?
Sure.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think this is the point where we don't want folks to be scared away. This is YAML. With that being said, is there some sort of schema that can be used so you can better understand how to configure with this YAML file? Which properties are available?
I use a plugin for Visual Studio Code that has autocomplete, so I can see. Let me see. Let's stop. it should work.
Yeah, it's thinking about it.
No, yeah, it's you can also use Visual Studio inside Home Assistant. You know, I use
Really?
it from my PC. Yeah, let me show you the Visual. Okay, Visual Studio Code. Yep, Open Web UI, and this is Visual Studio Code running inside Home Assistant. So I can. Sorry, not this one. I always forget the extensions, the shortcuts, because I'm mostly using Visual Studio. Let's see if here it works. Yeah, so you see, here I have all my groups, for example. If I want to turn off all the lights or control them, I can just do it like this.
Oh, that's pretty great.
This makes it easier.
Now I'm going to have to build a Home Assistant box, Bogdan.
And there's another way to write automation, and I prefer this one. It's using Node-RED. I don't know if you've been using it, because it's not something made by Home Assistant or their team. It's something made by IBM, from what I know. And
right? Yeah. I was just going to comment on Node-RED. Node-RED is really kind of for our viewers. If you look, it's this really nifty kind of flow chart way of piecing together automation. Like, so when this happens, go transform it here and transform it there and do branching logic here, and then turn on all this stuff. And oh, by the way, create a log entry over here. And it's kind of cool because it's all written in Node and it runs anywhere. So yeah, I love Node-RED. Please, Bogdan, this is the more complex Node-RED than anything that I've ever done. So please give us a tour.
Yeah, so in Node-RED we have the concept of nodes. You know, instead of writing your automations in YAML or defining them into native UI, you can use basic node. You can use these simple nodes, and I think that it's it's easier to understand what the automation does. For example, this one is called the inject node. Okay, and it has some options. For example, I could configure it to start once after a few seconds, or I could make it repeat in intervals. I could make it run every night at 12 a.m. or at a specific time, and so on. In this case, it runs every 1 minute. I also have a check because here I'm retrieving my productivity, and I only want to do that between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. in case I'm working a bit late. Okay.
Bogdan, if you don't mind, folks in the chat are asking if you can make your font a little bit bigger.
Sure. I can zoom in. Let's hope this makes it better.
Oh, that's much better.
Perfect. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, no problem. And let's make this. Okay. So you can also write JavaScript if you want in Node-RED. And for example, here I'm making a request to my own API that is running on a Raspberry Pi, written in .NET. Okay, so this is just a GET request. Okay, this is the request node. This doesn't do anything because I already told it in the function that I wanted to do a GET. The URL is set in the function as well. So this the only thing that I did here was to say that the response is a JSON object. Okay, and here I have another function that retrieves the productivity score and does other stuff. But yeah, this might scare some people away, so I'm going to close it. The thing is, I just take the payload. Let me, yeah, you can see here. So this is the response returned by this request. Okay, and in here I just send this 65 along to this node, which will do some stuff. For example, if my productivity is decreasing, then the lights will flash red in the office, because sometimes I could go on Twitter or on Facebook or something like that, and I forget about it for 20 minutes or something like that. And I want
you go. There you go, being far more disciplined than I am, Bogdan. I just couldn't. I couldn't conceive of writing code to harass myself like that.
Yeah. Yeah, but it works, once you. I mean,
So-
if you have a goal,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I jest. I'm certainly not being critical. So just to
No.
review that flow from beginning to end again. So over on the left hand side of that, so that's
Sure.
basically a timer, right? That just happens
Exactly.
every 1 minute.
I'm doing a
And then-
request. Yeah.
And then every 1 minute, it looks like you're filtering on time between 8 and 20. As 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. essentially, and then you're preparing a request, you're sending the request, you're getting the payload back and getting the value you want out of that payload, and then you're sticking that payload off in a database, I guess.
Yeah, and this is a flow, a node that I created, because as in programming, you should not repeat code, and in this case, you should not repeat nodes. So you can create your own node that you can call from other. These are flows, the tabs right here. So for example, you see that this is the productivity score that I have now. This will arrive in here, and this node will check if the productivity increased or it decreased. Okay, and in case the productivity went down, if I'm in the office, because I also track my phone, and if I'm in bed scrolling Facebook, I don't want this to happen. It will start focus mode, and focus mode is a Windows application that will block distractions like Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and everything you want. And I have 1 minute. I have 1 minute to finish what I'm doing, and then the focus session will start.
So you have it pop a notification that says, "Hey, you only have another minute to goof off or whatever," and then we're gonna
exactly. Or maybe I want to stop it. Maybe I'm talking with someone on WhatsApp or Facebook, and I really need to continue that conversation. In that case, I would have to go in Node-RED and do some small change and redeploy, and the flow will get interrupted. So I could stop this, but it's not that easy, and I could make it easier, but if you make it easy, then you'll just prevent it every time.
That's what I was gonna ask, because if you decide to take a day off or something where like you're not, you wanna
this
just
doesn't work during the weekend. This doesn't work during the weekend, for example.
Mhm.
And if I want to take some time off, I don't know if I have a setting in here, but usually I have a page with settings that I check in Node-RED, so I could just turn this on or off. And
what would be really cool is if you could sync this up with your Outlook calendar, so it knows when you're out of office and can go on your preferred social media sites.
That's something that I want to do. But when you have multiple calendars from Outlook, from Google, I'm still trying to find a way to combine them in only one API request, to find out if I'm. But I don't know how to do that yet.
Yeah, I've got a similar problem.
And did it help you to get more No, did it help you to get more productive, like with all this in place? And
I've looked at my productivity in the past, and I don't think I have older entries than 6 months, but overall, I'm trying to stay above 65% or something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now I've seen on a few of these graphs that have popped up. I've seen power usage. How are you monitoring your power usage?
For power, let me go to the power tab. I'm using a Shelly device. I don't know if you've heard about the brand. It's something that you put around your cable that comes in your house with the power. It has a small clamp.
Clamps that go around the mains, and they measure the what's the word I'm looking for? The induction. They do inductive something.
Yeah, and they will give you a bunch of sensors. One of them is the actual power that is consumed inside your house. You can also use it if you have solar panels. stuff like that. I don't, but I know it's also possible to do that. And Home Assistant has an integration called Utility Meter that allows you to check the power usage by day, for example, or monthly. And I use this to calculate how much, for example, last month, until last night, I had 315 kilowatts consumed.
So this module that breaks down the power usage is built into Home Assistant?
Exactly, it's built into Home Assistant, and I'm using a custom sensor to also see the current utility bill. So it should be right here. Daily gas cost.
Well, I think you just sold me on Home Assistant.
Sorry, this one. Yeah.
I've actually got a power sensor like what you're talking about with the inductive clamps, but I've just got it piped into SmartThings, and I'm not doing anything with the data. If I could house the data somewhere and crunch it in Grafana like this would be very useful.
Yeah, I think it could take it because, for example, I have a smart washer from Samsung, and I have it here in SmartThings. So you could integrate it, but it's read-only. So I can't turn on the washer from Home Assistant, but that's because SmartThings doesn't allow them to do that. Okay, so that's one of the disadvantages with some devices.
So, our viewers might be curious. Let's say there's, a SmartThings outage. How does that impact something like this in your home? Are you unable to turn your lights on, or what does that impact look like? Sort of, what's the disaster recovery story look like?
So there are multiple things that can happen. For example, if an integration breaks, then I won't be able to access information about that device. I can still use my washer. I just have to go and do it manually. Okay, if Philips has problems, then the same. I have backups. I have the physical switches, and the default, if I turn on a switch, is to turn on the light. It's not like I'm going to stay in the dark. But also, if there's no internet, I can connect almost the entire house from my phone because the devices are in my internal network connection.
If I can add on to that, Scott, some of what Bogdan was talking about there. So you have a lot of services like SmartThings, for example, does have a cloud-based component that you can't do anything about. And like I don't know about Hue, but I think they do too. And there's a lot of systems that do. And then there's a lot of different components that you can manage completely locally based on standard protocols like Z-Wave and Zigbee. So like Home Assistant has the ability to run like a Z-Wave radio, like a USB-based Z-Wave radio, and control like your Z-Wave based lights locally. So there's a really strong argument, like Bogdan was saying earlier in the show, there's a really strong argument for keeping as much stuff local as you can. I love the cloud. Don't get me wrong. The cloud is, I love all the stuff I can do with the cloud. But at the end of the day, when the internet connection is down, I still want most of my automations to work.
Yeah, I'm part of that camp as well. I think in a setup like this, I would fear the cloud. I would shake my fist at the cloud and say, stay away. I want everything to be managed locally.
I feel like I'm living in the past now, man. Like looking at all of these things and what you can do. It's like I'm still doing manual switches here, so I'm being sold.
I wanted to show you, this is the Zigbee map from all my Zigbee devices. Okay, so if you
don't mind, Bogdan, can we, for viewers that aren't familiar with Zigbee, can you define just in layman's terms what Zigbee is?
So Zigbee is just another communication protocol like Wi-Fi, but Zigbee doesn't consume that much power. So that's why it's a strong reason to go for Zigbee if you have sensors, for example, motion sensors or contact sensors. I even tested one from Shelly that is a battery-powered sensor that uses Wi-Fi, and the battery goes off in 1 month or something like that. And for the Zigbee sensors, it can last up to 2 years or something like that. So it's a huge difference. You don't want to change sensor batteries every month.
And we have a viewer asking, Sean's asking, Zigbee is a mesh network, correct? And that is correct.
Yeah.
Zigbee is a mesh-based network, and any mains-powered Zigbee devices will serve as repeaters.
Exactly. So, for example, this is one of the lights from my hallway, and you can see that a lot of devices are connected to it. This is a powered device, so it will broadcast information to another and so on. So if I'm trying to control a light from my living room, then the information will go from my office to this one if it can't reach directly the living room, and this one will send it further away.
Is it possible to zoom in on that a little bit, Bogdan?
Sure.
I'm curious what these labels are here on this graph.
Yeah, so these are the names from my devices. Yeah, it's and this is the quality of the signal. If it's red, it's bad, and green is good. Should I go? Yeah.
And for our viewers, what we're seeing here, like Sean was asking about, we're seeing a mesh network composed of devices that are mains powered, so they're all repeaters, and devices that are battery powered, like door sensors, motion sensors, things like that. And Zigbee is not the only protocol for this. Zigbee is it's in the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum, same as Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, so it's kind of a crowded spectrum. So there's another protocol that's also very popular that called Z-Wave. Z-Wave is proprietary. It's got patents on it that so every Z-Wave product you buy, you're paying a license fee, but it works very similar to this, same kind of deal. The mains powered devices are repeaters, and the battery powered sensors will connect to those, but it runs on the 900 megahertz spectrum, so it gets a little bit better penetration, a little bit better distance. I've got for example, I've got a fence out around my yard, and I've got sensors in the gates on my fence to let me know when the gates are open, and I don't have any problem getting a signal from, I don't know, that's probably 70 or 80 feet away. I don't know what that converts to in meters. Sorry, international friends.
Yeah, I think I can skip the Azure demo if because we were talking about the cloud, and it's not that okay to rely your home on it. But
hold up.
Yeah.
Let's hear that. Well, how do you integrate with the cloud? What do you do here? So do you do like REST requests through Node-RED, or you consuming an API somewhere? How does tie into Azure services? How are you tying into Azure services?
So what I'm doing, I'm using Azure Cognitive Services for face recognition, because you could also do that locally, but you need some power. I don't know how face recognition works on a Raspberry Pi, for example, but I bet it's not that good. Also, especially if you also have Home Assistant and other stuff in there. In my case, I'm using Home Assistant on an old laptop that has some pretty good specs, and probably I could also use that machine for face recognition. But I decided, because I'm a .NET developer, that I wanted to try face recognition. So yeah, this is one of the reasons to use it. Okay, if you don't want to invest in hardware, then you can use the cloud if it's cheaper for you. So yeah, I have a basic .NET application. Yeah.
So this is Azure Cognitive Services that you're using for face recognition.
Exactly. I have a basic flow in here. Let me show it in Node-RED. Okay, so it's this one. If I'm opening the office door, or I'm closing it in the morning between 5 and 12, then I'll check if it's me who entered the office, and I'll turn on my laptop using Wake on LAN. I'll turn on the light strip, and I'll ask myself if I want a summary of the day. Okay, I think I should just show you how it works first, and then we'll go through the code. I have the green screen behind me, so I can't physically open the door right now. So I'm just going to use an inject node to simulate this. Okay, let me deploy this. And each change you do in Node-RED gets deployed in a few seconds. So let me open this. This is the debug panel. And now Alexa should talk. So let's see.
So where is it getting the image of you to determine if it's you?
Good morning, Bogdan. Do you want a summary of the day?
Sure. Just a moment. And now?
You completed 14 tasks so far, and you have 1 remaining tasks until the end of the day. Your productivity score is 65, and so far you've been standing at 63%.
Yeah, I don't know if you could hear that, so I'm just going to start again. You could see that I make a request to my API.
Good morning, Bogdan.
And I have another camera that will take a picture of me. Okay, and it will take a few pictures because maybe I enter the office and I'm not looking straight to the camera, but I'll show that in the code. Okay, so what it will do, I'll trigger this and I'll go in the node to show you more detail.
So I'm throwing up our.
Do you want a summary of the day?
Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I'm putting on the view with our faces because I was just sitting here open jawed the whole time. I'm like, okay, I thought I was, you know, wired up. I thought I had my house automated. I thought I was doing the HAL 9000 thing. No, I mean, I'm not wearing a hat, but if I were, I would tip it to you. Wow.
So, Bogdan, question for you there. I heard there was a productivity score that was provided, and I don't remember what it was, but how was that score calculated?
Yeah, if you can see it here, it's Node-RED. Sorry, it's Rescue Time Windows application that you just install, and it measures the time that you spend on websites and the apps that you use and stuff like that. And you can also configure it because maybe some people are productive on Twitter, or maybe they have a YouTube channel and that's productivity for them. And yeah, so this is what I use to track my productivity.
It's like Christmas morning for Cam over there.
You're not wrong, Scott. I'm feeling challenged and motivated, and you know, I know we were going to collaborate on a Microsoft Learn module this week. I don't know how I can be productive now, Scott. I've got things to do.
I'm sensing that Cam's out of office message will be on for the remainder of the week.
Yeah.
He's gonna spend his wellness days on finishing his home automation.
Yeah, so suddenly, yeah, I need time off.
Yeah, this takes time for me as well. So it's especially if you like it, then it's if it's like a hobby, yeah, then it's hard to leave it.
But you're always improving, right? Like you're always thinking of new ways of how you can make it better and smarter.
Yeah. And there are all sorts of devices that you want to try. And
when we talk about it being a slippery slope, yeah, it's not just plugging in hardware, but then you start thinking about, okay, what can I do to make the hardware smarter? What scenario like Bogdan has? I walk into my office and I want it to do all this stuff when it recognizes that it's me.
So I haven't showed you, but as I said, I have another camera in my office that is connected directly to my Raspberry Pi that takes my pictures. Okay, and let me go in here. So here I just make a GET request to this endpoint. I should remember that this is on my Raspberry Pi. Okay, and this one returns this JSON. If it's me, the number of detected persons and the number of identified persons. So far, I just want to know if it's me, but in the future, I may teach it if it's my wife as well or my kids. Okay, and let me go back. So once this happens, it will invoke a script that asks me if I want a summary of the day. Okay, and I need this event ID to listen for it in Home Assistant. So if I say yes, then Alexa will broadcast this event to Home Assistant. If I say no, it won't do anything. And this is the Office Echo Dot that I have in my office.
So
And
you
how do
have.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so you have some kind of a virtual device drivers or some kind set up in Home Assistant that you can send audio, text to speech notifications to that Alexa will read out.
Yeah, I have an Alexa integration for Home Assistant, and this allows you to say text in with Alexa with whatever device you want. You can play music on Alexa. Actually, I have my own node for Alexa. Let me just go in here. So you can see this here. I'm listening for events, and this is the event that I received then. And this is the custom node that I created. So for example, I can make Alexa whisper or broadcast a message. I can choose the volume. Let me put this to 10 so you can hear it next time. I can select one of my Echo Dots. I can also use custom sounds. I can also notify my headset if I don't want to rely on Alexa, my phone, ignore sleep mode. You know, if the house is burning, I want to ignore that and notify me.
Okay, so that's great. We actually have something similar over in Smart Things and Habitat World. It's a community thing that does the same kind of thing where we can just send audio notifications to Alexa. Or in my case, what I do in my house is I have a dedicated Raspberry Pi that's just running VLC. And what I can do is I could just do text to speech directly to that, and it'll read it in whatever
I want to do
voice
that
I
as
want.
well. Because with Alexa it takes some time. So I'm going to show you now. Once I press this, it will directly send the command, but it has to go through the cloud. You know, it's not communicating directly with Alexa. That's the disadvantage. But in your case with VLC, then I bet that's a lot faster. So if I'm going to press this, you're going to hear Alexa in 2 or 3 seconds. Okay, successfully injected. Sorry. I should have put it here, so I have to retrieve the summary first before sending the message. Okay. Now. Come on.
You completed 14 tasks so far, and you have no remaining tasks until the end of the day. Your productivity score is 65, and so far you've been standing up 64% of the time. The CO2 level in the office is 2002 parts per million, and the temperature is 28.2 degrees Celsius. Have a nice day.
Bogdan, your carbon dioxide level in your office has gone up 500 parts per million just during the course of the show. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. It has to go over 5,000 in order to be nauseous, so it's okay.
There was someone in the chat who expressed their concern for the level. I'll find that comment, but yes, they were very concerned.
And where are you tracking your tasks?
With Todoist. So and also I have if I complete an important task like the .NET Docs show, then Alexa will celebrate for me. So I just have to check this in Todoist, and then Alexa will start clapping.
You finish your day.
Yeah. Because sometimes you want somebody to celebrate with you. So
to our viewers, if you can't make that out, we can hear Alexa in the background. Congratulations, whatever.
Yeah, the volume was low. It was congratulating me for finishing the name of the task, and there were some clapping in the beginning. And you can also specify using speech synthesis markup language, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. you can make it be disappointed or excited when it tells you something, or you can make it whisper and stuff like that. Because, for example, I have an automation that tells me if a window is open and the heating turned on. And if my daughter is sleeping, then Alexa will whisper that to me, so as to not to wake her up, you know.
So we're at
Yeah,
about
there's
the 5-minute mark here in the show. In other words, 5 minutes or so left. For
Yeah,
viewers who wanted to, I guess, get started with Home Assistant and do something sort of like what you're doing here, where would they look for resources to get started?
First of all, the documentation is pretty great from Home Assistant. So depending on what device you have, all the steps are in here. The community is pretty great. There are forums, Discord groups, Facebook groups, and so on. So and they're really helpful. Yeah, you just need to find a way to install Home Assistant on whatever device you have. I started with my current laptop, Windows laptop. You know, I just wanted to try it, and once I saw that I like it and I want to go this way, I bought a Raspberry Pi, and that's the best way for beginners. You could also use a Raspberry Pi Zero, but that's not recommended if you have more devices, more than, I don't know, 20, 30 devices. It can be a bit slow because it also has to render your web pages and so on. And after you have it installed, then you'll get hooked. Once you connect your first device and you see everything that you can do with it, then all the automations that you can do, then yeah, well, the sky is the limit from then on.
I'm already sitting here thinking about how I can fit it into what I'm already doing. Can I see they've got a container available, and that works out for me because I've got a Docker server that already runs all my home automation stuff. So I've got another container to go install.
In my case, I'm running a build agent on my Raspberry Pi for my API. So, I have a .NET API running on the Raspberry, and this one takes care of the face recognition part and other stuff. And the nice thing is that you can also write unit tests for your automations, which is something you can do in Home Assistant, for example. And that's another plus of using .NET or a programming language for.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Well. Do you have any closing thoughts you'd like to leave our guests with, Bogdan?
Sorry, what?
I said, well, we're winding down the show. Do you have any closing thoughts you'd like to leave our guests with?
Well, if they want to know more about Home Assistant and what you can do with .NET and Home Assistant, then they can follow me on Twitter. I'm @thewindev, and or follow my blog. And if they need any help, I'm happy to chat.
Awesome. I have a feeling that you and I could probably chat a long time about a lot of things. We unfortunately we only have an hour to do this show, but I don't know, maybe you and I could start doing a home automation show every week, because I don't think we'd run out of things to talk about.
No, definitely not.
We do have one last minute question that we can take before we wrap up the show, and that is that solution using Microsoft Speech?
The Alexa, or
it's not clear to me, but is Microsoft Speech being used in any aspect here, I guess?
No. So this is just the Alexa API that is used by Home Assistant integration. So no, I'm only using Microsoft Cognitive Services for the face recognition part. That's all. I have some ideas for Microsoft Speech, but I haven't got time to implement them.
Yeah, and that's always how it goes. I have so many ideas and not enough time. All right, friends. Well, I want to thank all of our guests for joining us this week. Next week, we'll be back with Jair Halberstadt, who will be discussing compiler time dependency injection in C# using Strong Inject. We hope to see you next Monday. Have a good week.
Bye. Thank you for having me.
Bye.